give a warm Satori welcome for Miss Sandra Williams. Until you get this out, for sure, I'll stick here and then I'll head out. Okay?
Okay. Well, it's good to be back, and I love it when people bring their faces. It gives them something to read. And tonight we're going to be talking more about the Chinese face reading, the temperament types, and this is going to be a broad temperament type that is based not only on the face but on the body as well. And the whole idea here is you have permission to stare. Okay? And these are your guinea pigs, so as we're going through this, y'all have to turn around and look at each other. And if you have to get up close and personal, that's okay too. You're going, oh, yeah, I see now. It's kind of like when I took art classes way back in college, and the professor invited us to go right on up and stare at these people that we were drawing. But whenever they brought in a nude model, I moved to the back of the room. I was 18, it was scary stuff. But now I go stare at people, so. Okay, how many of you have been exposed to face reading before? Most of you? But, oh, we got newbies here. Oh, good. Face reading is basically a personality profile based on the structure and proportions of your face. And in the Chinese, we're also going to be looking at the body types and tying that in with it as well. So, with all of that, I'm going to go ahead and give you the handouts. Just don't start reading ahead, okay? And you may want to make notes on them. So if you want to take that and start passing back, and if you would do the same, and it's just one sheet. So do that to make the revision better. And let's see. Okay, there we go. And whatever's left over, if you want to stick them on the chair. Okay. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about it, because this is a temperament type. It gives you some idea of the motivations of the different elements, of where they're coming from, what they're about, what turns them on, what they are all about generally. And it can be a very powerful way to see people. The specific details of a face will fill out the rest of the picture, but there are certain certain features that are tied in with each of the element types. And those, if they're really strong on the face, makes that particular element even stronger. And if they have even a little bit of something, you see, this particular chin is associated with, say, water, then you know they've got some water. They may not have the whole picture, and you're not likely to find people who are just a pure type. Most are. Every now and then you find one. I tried to get as close as I could on the pictures that we'll be showing you, but most people don't fit that, and every now and then you find somebody you're going, I think they got some of all of them. And they say that that doesn't happen, but the truth is, from what I've seen, every now and then you will see that. Okay? And the comments that people make. Like I was watching Will Smith in an interview one night, and he said, yeah, he says, things really scare me. And he says, but I fight it. And I thought, water! That is exactly what they do. Their primary emotion is fear, and they tend to fight it. Like Evel Knievel was primarily water. Primary emotion is fear, so he fights it by getting out there and jumping over everything in the world and half killing himself, I guess, to see if he can survive it. I don't know. But pay attention to those two. And we've already talked about that last one. Okay, wood. This is the warrior. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Harrison Ford. He's got a lot of wood. Who are some others that are kind of like that? Think about them.
They're very defined.
Yes. Can y'all think of some names of people that would fit this kind of look? Some famous people?
Sean Connery.
Yep. That's a good one. And Mel Gibson. Okay. They usually have a rectangular face. And you're going to see these really prominent brow bones. So kind of look around you and see if you see some brow bones sticking out. And on a woman, if you see any buildup at all right in here, that's pretty strong. Like Margaret Thatcher, Hillary Clinton, both of them have a good bit of wood. And it shows up right in there.
You do too.
I do, you're right. And so some of this applies to me as well. You'll see a lot of women, these sports types who get out there and just go after it. And I think about some of the jockeys who get on the horses and they're testing their limits and whatnot. You'll usually see some wood in them. Race car drivers, all of that. A lot of the women who go into the armed forces are the police.
So is Ari from The Bachelor?
I never watched The Bachelor, I don't know. But,
She's a race car driver.
oh, okay. A lot of them will have a really square chin, which is the mark of a fighter, and an idealist. They think the world should be a certain way, and they're trying to make it that way. And the coarse skin and coarse hair, now some of the books don't talk about that, but I have found from Personology, which I'm trained in personology and certified in it as well, developed by a judge, people with the coarse skin and coarse hair have a lot of the same characteristics of wood. And so to me, that's another thing that you can look for whenever you're trying to decide if this person has some of that. And usually they don't have really big cheekbones sticking out, but they're angled down and they're fairly flat. And that can be an indication as well. So I want you to turn and look at the people around you and see if you see any of these characteristics in the people right around you.
See us here.
If I was reading this and saying if I was in one of them, I would say water.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
It does, but people do change. Yeah, so they do. Okay.
She does. You got her jawline. I heard prominent chin.
Here, back. Yeah, you've got
That's
something of a straight face.
A
One of the
rectangular
things
face.
that I find is just perfectly straight sides on a face. That's, ooh, these are people who have this kind of attitude.
Turn around so we can stare. Choose who they want to stare at you.
Okay, now we'll stare at you. She's got that rectangular face, yeah. Okay. Here's some examples that may help you get more of a feel for it. And I like to look at those cheekbones, angled down, kind of flat, but she's got those really straight sides on her face.
Her jaw pretty square.
Yes. And she's also got a bit of a square on the bottom of her chin, square chin, square chin. Margaret Thatcher's got hers covered up because she's afraid we don't like staring at her.
She knows what we're doing.
That's right. Okay. Now, the physical characteristics, there are these lucky people who don't have to go to the gym every day and work out to have muscle density. It's just there. The rest of us have to work hard, and if you're metal, you're never going to have that tough, mean look to you. They're the thin people. There's two different types. One is like the basketball players. They're tall and long, and they've got this long waist and kind of short legs, and they're always in motion. They never be still. If they sit still, they fall asleep. And then you've got the other type that is like the gymnast. They've got big shoulders, and they're massive up here. They've got the small hips, and they're just very muscular looking. They're just full of energy, but they sit still, and when they move, it's like a whirlwind. It's just energy is held and then it's exploded out. And both of them have a lot of these same characteristics. It's just the way they express that energy is going to be a little bit different. Okay? Bruce Willis is another real good example of a good type. Issues are with anger and control. And they get really frustrated and angry if they're in a group or on something like a board or something where they don't have any control over what happens. They can get really angry about it and disaffected, and you're going to know that steam's rising. They have a tendency to want to bend or circumvent the rules. They figure the rules apply to them, but not to me. It's just automatic, and they have double standards. They can invade your territory, but not invade theirs. I had a boss one time who regularly would come into my office, just barrel in, turn the chair around, sit on it backwards, which is a very aggressive mode, and start a conversation, not to find out if I was in the middle of something or anything else. And at the time, I didn't realize what was happening, but it kind of irritated me. And I've got some wood too. It's like, you're invading my boundaries here. And it would get too close. But that's what they do, but they won't tolerate it in reverse. And so pay attention when you're watching these people and you think they're wood, or you think somebody you work with has some of these characteristics. You'll see these kind of behaviors going on. And, sometimes you're going, other times you're going, well, no wonder. This is wood, that's what they do. That's the way they approach it. But you won't find a better person who has a lot of wood than those who take on like a humanitarian cause, and they're their people, and they will go to war for them. And I think of somebody like Bill Gates. He's got quite a bit of wood, and he's got that big humanitarian cause of getting rid of disease around the world. And he goes after full bore, and that's the way they operate. There's no halfway with them, particularly if it's a really strong wood. And let's see, the other thing is they're loud and noisy. I used to work with another artist, and we would do some of the painting of these big, beautiful houses over in Dallas, the decorative painting and that kind of thing. And she's a metal type. She's very thin, very delicate looking, and metal is like, I wouldn't have that. They can forgive anything except poor taste. And we would be sitting there talking very quietly and have WRR FM playing softly, and then the guys who are working on the house come back. You can hear them the minute they hit the door, kabam, they hit the door, they come through, they're stomping around, somebody's upstairs. Instead of going upstairs to talk to them, they yell at them. And the two of us are just jangled by the whole thing. They're just so loud and noisy. And once I got into this, I thought, no wonder. They're being their natural selves. And their voices carry extremely well. You can hear them clear across the room. So does that ring any bells with you on people you know? Any of you? Yeah? A lot of times whenever I'm talking about these things, I see people's faces light up or they smile, because I figure they're recognizing somebody they know. And that's what this is all about, because once you understand it, it makes more sense and it's easier to deal with them. You know, they're being who they naturally are. And the other thing that is really strong in this wood is incredible intensity and focus. They're very serious people. They're not the people who are going to, you know, do the late night show and carry on and be goofy and that kind of thing. Doesn't work with them at all. They're very, very serious. Any questions? Any comments? No? Okay. Okay. No, I was thinking I had a typical thing that they say there. Fire. This is the entertainer. They're the people who like to be the center of attention. They usually have dimples, but not always. But you can usually recognize them by an infectious smile that just lights up a room and eyes that just sparkle. And the minute they walk in and grin at you, you can't help but grin right back at them. It's just, that's the fire energy. And it's kind of like they're just oozing energy upward, like a fire does. The other thing is, you know, you look at eyes and you see maybe the points on the inside and out here, points on the upper lips. A lot of times you see almost pointed corners on the mouth. All of those are tidbits of fire. And when you see a lot of that on the face, that's a good way to recognize looking at fire. And they're fidgety. They can't be still. They move all the time. Kind of like wood does, but theirs is more of a nervous energy. And the wood is more purposeful in their energy and the way they move. But your fire people, I think about some of the fire people I know, and one lady is just, she's quite a character. She can burst into song. She's got a fabulous voice. And we went to, I think it was Blue Mesa, and she's sitting there kind of bored. She looked at me across the table and she says, "Do you want a free dessert?" And I said, "And how's that going to happen?" And she says, "Just watch." And when the waiter comes back, she says, "You know, today's my birthday." And he says, "Oh, it is?" And she said, "Yes, it is my birthday." And she says, "So what do y'all do for people with a birthday?" And he said, "Well, we have a little cake." And she knew that. And so they brought it out, and they were singing happy birthday to her. And this woman gets up and starts dancing around and putting on quite a show. I mean, she was an entertainer to the nth degree. She got big applause when she got through. But this is what you can expect with somebody who's heavily fire. They just have a good time, and if it's not fun, they may leave a relationship, they may quit a job, it's too boring. They're not having any fun in it. If it's not fun, they get depressed. It's like, I don't want to be here. And if they get depressed, this same person called me one time and she says, "I'm just sitting on a puddle on the floor." And she was depressed over some things. And so I came over and we visited a while. We went out to eat and she got to be her usual fiery, fun self. And she cheered up. But fire people can't pull themselves out of the doldrums by themselves. They need people. They operate from the heart and they need that love. And so if you're dealing with somebody who's always got to be the center of attention, "Hey, I'm here," that's fire. Just indulge them. It's who they are and they can't help it, but they can be the most entertaining people you'll ever meet. Okay, another thing is angled up eyes. If you see somebody with angled up eyes, pay attention to that. That's another indication. Whimsical, funny, scattered, magnetic, yeah, all of that. And they really have difficulty being alone. When they're in front of an audience, they're really on, but as soon as that light turns off and they walk away, it's just kind of like now what do I do? They need somebody to be with them. And if they're not happily married, they can really get seriously depressed. Any of that ring any bells for any of you? You know people like that? Okay. And turn around, look at people, stare at them, see if you see any fire in anybody in the room. No. When it goes up in the dead, some now it's just curve over.
Back there. She's fired.
Identified with the fire.
Well, I don't know about the nipple, but she's always happy.
That's a good indication right there. Yeah, but she's, and then you start looking at all of these, and you'll probably see a number of things that show that. Okay. And don't try to discuss really heavy topics that it will. Okay, let's get into Earth. The square, yes.
I have a question. Would fire people be the ones who would commit suicide because they would get that depressed? Or that would
They
be
could.
just military?
Yeah. Particularly if they're left alone too long and people, their friends are not calling them or anything.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I don't think they're that weak.
Hmm?
I don't think they're that weak.
Some of them are. It just all depends. And the circumstances can get them down. But generally, it's all individual. But generally, it's a very upbeat, happy-go-lucky kind of energy. And the people, whenever you know somebody like that, you'll see that they want to call you, they want to talk, they want to be.
Females that look like that, they also have turned up eyes that look really like this. Almost every female I've ever seen is like that. Fire has a turned up eyes on this.
Angled up eyes.
Angled up eyes,
Yes.
and they're just like that. It's like a little mania. You're right. You have to get to talk to them in case they get down and bring them back up again.
Yeah, they need the
They need that.
energy of other people. They operate from the heart, and they need that love, and especially romantic love.
That's true in her case. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
She wasn't a girl, but just a friend.
Okay, in the earth, these are people who have soft bodies, and if you can't ever really get a hard muscle on there, you probably have a lot of earth. And it's just the way things are. They give great hugs. Usually a square face, and you'll see a distinct jawline right here. Instead of just like rounded or something, or a pointed chin. This is a quintessential looking earth face. That really square look to it. And soft, they have just the creamiest complexion. It's beautiful. It's not the polished metal look like your metal people have, but it's a soft, creamy, it's just beautiful, beautiful skin. I have a friend like that. She's my age, and she's got the most gorgeous skin. I'm so jealous. But they will usually have little soft pads on the chin, right up here, on the belly, and, up in here. And they usually have shorter arms. They don't have that elongated look. They're kind of short. The legs are usually kind of short. And there's sort of a tubular look to the legs and arms. They're not, shaped so much like thin ankles or thin wrists, that sort of thing. It's more solid, like a built out of earth, and there's a strength to it. And the temples, you'll see this is real full right in here. And in face reading, the fullness right in here is they're going to say what they think, and they tend to nurture everybody around them, whether they need it or want it. They just
It's hard as yours.
yeah.
does. Thinking of those too.
It's a very powerful thing with them. And they will definitely take care of their people. I love this crazy woman. Okay, keeping up appearances, the British Council. Yes. Yes. She's passed away. I really hate that, but I love to watch her. She is just so funny. And she's quite a bit of earth in that crazy body of hers. She's probably got a lot of fire in there too, because she's quite an entertainer. Okay, they're very grounded, supportive, nurturing, and they're the worrywart of the zodiac. Totally. And I know we're not talking about the zodiac tonight, but they are the worrywart. Anybody recognize themselves in any of that?
Tell me that's you.
Yeah, we worry all the time. He was married to a worrywart. In fact, when he worked for the Scouts, that was his nickname, was worrywart. And they are so loving, and it's really sad whenever the people feel smothered by them and kind of hold them at arm's length, because it's so important to have that connection to other people, particularly those they love. My mother-in-law was largely earth, and whenever my son told her that he was planning to move to Australia, she was mad at him for 2 weeks because he was going to be moving away from her. And it just really hit her, right in the heart that he was going to move away. He never did, but I remember him getting so upset that she was so upset over his moving. He simply did not understand what that was all about. But she's strongly earth. And pure earth is not only sentimental, they tend to be messy. Everything's in piles. They're sort of inertial, and they're extremely sensual. So they love good food. They love like Winston Churchill. Always had a cigar, that kind of thing. Their creature comforts are very important to them. And if you want to bond with an earth person, break bread with them, because it feels like you're at home with them.
If you're a Taurus and an ox on the earth, you're in trouble. If you're a Taurus and an ox in the chart and an earth sign, oh my goodness gracious.
Oh, yeah. That would be a lot. Totally. They tend to be very accommodating, so you can impose on them, and they don't stand up for themselves. I know my sister's got a lot of earth, and people will say, "Oh, Carolyn, we're coming to visit. You got your spare room ready?" They may stay 2 weeks, and she doesn't say anything to them, but she'll tell me, "I wish they would leave." And I say, "Well, tell them that you have other things you need to be doing." She said, "Oh, I can't do that." And they're very, very loyal. If they love you, they will love you to the end of time. And they give the absolute best hugs. When an earth person comes, you know you've been hugged. They're nice and soft, and you just get enveloped by them. So, want to look for earth around the room? I think we got quite a bit of earth here. Yeah. Good, strong, grounded people. And how many of you with some earth in there have ever made excuses for people you love?
All the time.
Yeah.
We love them regardless of.
Yeah. Well, they didn't mean it. He ran over somebody, but he didn't mean to. I get tickled sometimes at how far earth will go to make excuses for and make everything right as far as they're concerned with the people they love. There's just no substitute for it. Okay, metal. A lot of your fashion people are just almost pure metal, you know, like some of these models. I was over at the Market Center one time when they were having a big fashion show, and I began to feel like a midget. These girls were walking through there, they were 6 foot tall, and they were, you know, just tall and thin, and these long, long legs and arms, and they were gorgeous, and they were wearing these fabulous things, and I thought, holy cow, it's like another race of people. But they were so incredibly beautiful, and most of them had that gorgeous skin. And this is what I'm talking about, you know, that polished look. It's almost like the sheen of metal. It's not oily, but it looks like it's been polished up and shiny. They generally are going to have really high eyebrows, and this is a little bit of aloofness and standoffishness. But it's a sensitivity, actually. They are looking things over, and you won't find anybody with more high-end taste than somebody who's got a lot of metal. When I was reading at a party one time, it was at somebody's home, and the daughter is this drop-dead, gorgeous teenager. She's about 18 or so. That polished skin and just beautiful. And I was reading her, and I said, "You could be a member of the fashion police." And her dad just cracked up, and he just leaned his head over on the table and started laughing. And I said, "Okay, there's a good story here. I want you to tell it to me." And he said, "She is such a fashion police that I can't even step out the door on Sunday morning in my bathrobe and pick up the paper on the front porch. Oh, Dad, you're not going to go outside looking like that." And he says, "So I have to go get dressed before I can take 2 steps out the door and pick up a newspaper." And she just goes, "Well, I can't have him looking like that." But usually whenever I tell these people, well, you could be a member of the fashion police, they usually say, "Guilty." I can't believe they would wear that. Oh my gosh, they tell me. One of the other things that you won't find in the official books on the Chinese face reading is this real short space right here between the nose and the upper lip. Whenever a person has that, they are usually very personal appearance oriented. They know what looks good together, and they take things personally.
Why is it small? What is it?
If it's long, like yours and mine, and a number of people around here, it means that we take our work seriously, but we have one of those weird senses of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when I was in college, I was taking art, and we were drawing skeletal parts, like a skeletal hand, a skull, that kind of thing. And I had all these big old newsprint drawings of this, and I thought, I think I'll do something with them. So for Christmas, I started drawing greenery coming out of them, and little holly berries and things like that, and I would give them to my friends with, "Merry Christmas, enjoy it. It could be your last." And they go, "You're weird." And I'm like, "Yes." But that's what that means, okay? You can say weird things with people with long upper lips, unless they're wood, then they might not have that sense of humor at all. Okay? And this is a typical, like quintessential metal body. They look like a strong wind would blow them over. And they usually are dressed to the nines, and they wouldn't dare step out the door without it. They just look like they stepped out of, quote, the bandbox, as they used to say back in the 50s. And the other thing you'll notice about them is whenever they sit, they may wrap their arms and legs around each other, and it's almost like they twist up like a pretzel. That's another indicative little gesture that you'll find primarily. What they're all about, they're kind of like stuck in a grief and they feel broken inside, and so they overcompensate by trying to be absolutely perfect. And they don't like to call attention to themselves. And so you'll find fire up front, you'll find a metal person at the back of the room, very quietly observing. And they're usually intelligent, very witty, and they know exactly where to cut. How many of you saw The Devil Wears Prada? Yeah. Meryl Streep played a quintessential metal. Oh, you know, I wouldn't have that. And that very soft voice, but this was as good a personification as I have ever seen of anybody doing metal. And she's not even metal, but she did it perfectly. They're very self-controlled, but they're not always self-confident. They're usually pretty analytical. And there's a tendency to look very elegant. They've got the posture almost of like a ballerina or something. They hold themselves very erect. And they move with grace, generally speaking. Oh, and the other thing with fine skin and fine hair, and this is typical of metal, they're so sensitive to the environment. If it's too hot, too cold, too noisy, or too nasty.
Yes.
Does a number on them. They just don't want to be there. I have a friend who's got quite a bit of metal in her, and she said, oh, I wish they would have a half degree on the thermometer. She says if it's 76, it's too warm. If it's 75, it's too cold. I thought, whoa, now that is sensitive, extremely sensitive. Isn't it amazing how different all of us are?
Yeah, wonderful.
And then you have water. They've usually got this really prominent forehead, but it has roundness at the top of it. And maybe not anywhere else, but a big prominent forehead with that roundness on it, you're usually looking at a water person. And of course with guys sometimes, you don't know where the forehead used to be. You have to kind of guess. Right now it's maybe back here. But one of the dead giveaways is they look like they're kind of looking off into space. Instead of like a wood person has this very intense gaze, and it's a real hard look. But with water, it looks like they're kind of off over there somewhere, and something out there is more interesting than what's right here in front of them. It's so just, some people call it dreamy. I just call it like a far away, like they're looking through you to something beyond you. And that's one of the giveaways for somebody who's got a lot of water in them. They usually have really strong jaws, and the lower cheeks, right down in here, is going to be pretty full. Let's see, anything else? Large ears. Now, these are the people who love to debate. They like ambiguity and intrigue. They can be very diplomatic, and they can give you the slip and send you out the door in such a diplomatic way you don't even know you've been sent back. And I told this friend of mine who's water, when I read that, I called her up and I said, let me read you the description of water as I was reading. She was chuckling, and I said, does it sound like anybody you know? And she says, no, it doesn't sound like anybody I know. Using the typical water thing, I'm not going to give anything away. So guess what you usually have in lawyers and in politicians? What two elements would you suspect? Wood.
Water and wood.
Water and wood. You want the power and control, and they can be very intriguing and roundabout. They can penetrate and find out what they want to know without giving anything away. I have a friend, I was telling her that. She says, yeah, she says, I do have a lot of water. She said, I'm always finding out about people, and after they've known me for 2 years, they'll say, I didn't know that about you. And she says, and I feel like I've scored points. So they can be very good at that penetration. Just think of water. It goes all kinds of places and it's hard to shut it out. And they'll keep coming back and coming around another wanting to find out what they want to know. And they'll just kind of wear you down. Sound like anybody you've been around before or you know? I was reading a trade show and this man and woman walked by and stopped. They looked and their friends were saying, come on over and have your face read. And she said, okay. And he said, oh, I don't need it. And he wanted to listen to everything I read about his friends, but he didn't want to do that. And I said, well, let me tell you a little bit about him. He's largely water, and they're very good at finding out about you, and they're very good at keeping you from finding out anything about them. And he said, enough, I'm gone.
He was a water too.
He was very water. Marilyn Monroe has the typical water body. Most water women always have a waist. I don't care how heavy they might get, they always have an hourglass figure. I was sitting in an AT&T store up in Grapevine here a while back, waiting for somebody to wait on me, and this woman walked in, and she was wearing those pants like they wear now that are, you know, just totally form-fitting. And she was fairly heavy, but oh my gosh, you talk about curves. I have never seen such curves, and I thought, water, water, right there. I have to watch myself, and I couldn't stand up and say things like that. Oh, look at that water body. Oh, look at that. That is just pure wood. I can't help myself. My friends are going, okay, and call me up and say, I want you to turn on such and such a channel. Tell me about that face. But at least they're looking. That's what I think is exciting, is they're paying attention, they're looking, and in the process, they're learning about people, and they're going to be able to read them better. So, okay, they're very restless. You'll find that some of the people who have serial relationships, or maybe multiples, often have a lot of water. They just don't like to be bound or any way fenced in. They always want to be free to move, to go as they please. And when they get older, they might finally marry. There's a kind of a mysteriousness, and they cultivate that because they like ambiguity. And they like to be unknown, mysterious to other people. They're very inquisitive. They keep asking questions. And as they get older, they've fought their fear. They wind up usually being pretty wise. And they're questing all the time. That's what their life is about, is a quest for meaning. And these are often the people who will go see gurus in other countries. They're looking for, what have you got to offer that's going to make sense to me, that gives me some idea of what life is all about. But you'll find that a lot of times in them. And the other thing is, while they face their fear and they try to overcome it, they can get in a panic about things that you would never understand. What are they so scared of? They can just go completely bonkers and go into a total panic attack about some small thing that most of us wouldn't be concerned about. But that's their fear coming out in odd ways, and you never know where it's going to come from. And the other thing I have found is consistent with water, they got a meandering quality. They don't go directly from this point to that like a wood would do. They go the straightest, most efficient way there. This friend of mine, I call her goldfish eyes because her eyes are out to here. And when she's going to walk somewhere, she'll just kind of wander around like this and back and forth and check everything out. And it just takes her a while to get there. But if she she's in a hurry, she's gonna get real impatient with you. Come on, what are you wasting time for? She will do it. And I love to watch her when she walks into a new space and they've got things that are interesting. But she loves to go to the flea market and to all these garage sales. And she will go and she'll pick out what she wants, and she will have wandered all over the whole place, and she'll come back with a little pile, and she says, now, I'll offer this for that stack, and I promise you, you'll never see any of it again. And they usually laugh and say, sure. And she's got it for half of what they were asking. She's an intriguing person. I find her just really fascinating. I don't have any water. She's like an alien to me. It's like, how does she do that? She's really, really good at it. And they are incredible at debate. So does that sound like senators and all of that? They can. It's their sport. They love a good debate, and they don't have to believe in what they're debating. They can debate it right into the ground and then take the opposite point and do the same thing again. Lawyers are another one that's good with water. Okay, that's all of them. And so, how many of you would like to kind of take a look at, do I have a volunteer who wants to come up here? And I want y'all to take what you've learned, since you're experts now, and I want you to tell us what you're seeing. Straight face, straight out. Okay? And you can turn so that they can get a good look at you. Okay? So anybody want to volunteer?
I won't get on it.
Don't need a microphone? Sing a torch song? No. That's what you would need to do it.
Maybe two.
Okay, anybody got 2 glasses of wine or she'll do it?
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I'll say.
Which one is the square face?
The square face is Earth.
Chinese fire.
You think there's some fire there? There's some playfulness. Look at those eyes. Aren't they sparkling?
And when she smiles, it's almost dimples.
No, this is true.
Big smile.
And when she smiles, you have yourself wanting to smile with her.
Yes.
Big smile.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What else?
Could she be a combination of earth and fire?
Yeah.
No. Do you like to nurture people? I do. See
Yes.
right there?
In the mouth, in the soft mouth.
So, yeah. And she's got little pads, and probably right here. Where are the little pad here? Yeah, and a lot of times you'll find it on the eyelids too. It's just
For
kind
which
of-
sign, sorry? For which type?
For the earth type, little soft pads. Okay, so do you relate to that pretty well? I do. Okay, do you feel like you have any metal?
No, but I think I have some water.
Okay. You've got a pretty good forehead. I think you've got the jaws.
Yeah, I'm also a water.
There you go. And you've not been true. Okay, very good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, come on up.
There's fire in there somewhere.
Well, we can look at you without your glasses for a little bit and we'll see if that helps. Anybody want to venture anything? Earth? Earth, yes.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking for the fire and the other elements.
okay. Well, you've got a lot of fire. It looks like you might have a little water. You've got a fairly high forehead on you, and you've got some fairly good jaws.
Yes, I have to say something.
Yes?
I do think she does not have a square face. She has more like an elongated one. Which one is the first one we saw? Wood. A rectangular one.
I don't have it straight. No, that's, okay.
But there's the jaw.
Okay. Yeah, that's,
Lots of panels, but.
that's.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty full of it. But it's like a combination here where she's got the jaws here, but there's also this feel of this right here in the front. Now, do you hate for people to try to tell you what to do?
Oh my God, yes. Oh, yes. So that's fire?
Well, it's not necessarily fire. It's just a face reading trait that whenever they've got either a pointed chin or an angled kind of wedge-shaped jaw, which we have another good example of it. You see the lower part of the face has got that V shape. Well, she's got the jaws, but she's also got this V shape kind of in the front. And that would tell me what to do.
So that's wood? Or is it?
You know, that particular trait is not necessarily associated with the elements. It's just some of the other face reading traits. They fill in the picture.
Okay.
Okay? Because you can be earth and still have this, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, but I've always been in situations where I can tell too.
Yeah.
There's your
Yeah.
Does she have fire?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, now I'm earth,
Yeah.
but I was hoping to find other elements to tap into.
I mean,
She can express
people are
that.
just very.
I get tired of being the one that's so grounded.
What do you think? I think you have fire.
Well, let's have a look. Stand up.
Come on. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing the water in that body shape. Do y'all see that curvaceous line? Yeah, that's water. She's got a fair amount of forehead, and she's got some pretty determined jaws on her. Yeah, I would say you got quite a bit of water in you.
It's on fire too.
The eyes have that sparkle, don't they? Yep. And that grin.
And that
smiling at me.
Yeah.
Almost dimples here.
You got it. You got it.
Look at this. What she got there? What is it? Got a little bit of build-up.
Probably,
You tell them what for from time to time? Really, don't you do that?
Yeah, but lately I'm trying to be humble.
Good luck with that.
So is that wood or fire?
I'm trying to be nice.
And so we've identified three characteristics here.
I think.
And see, like that, you know, this fire is just out there like that, and she's got this wisdom kind of thing going on as well, and looking beneath the surface. And then you pile in there this little bit of wood showing in that right there, that build-up. It's like, don't mess with me. Even though she can be very playful. But you'll see these combinations that really help you understand what you're seeing there, and you watch the behavior a little bit, and you go, got to know her. I understand. But that's the main thing, is this is the way somebody is built. There's no right or wrong to it, but if you understand where they're coming from, you stop expecting them to be more like yourself, or, you know, by your rules, and people shouldn't do that, or they shouldn't act like that. That's who they are.
So repeat.
Did you get a handout?
No.
I'm gonna list it. Did anybody else not get a handout? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, Wes, are you saying you didn't get one?
Oh, I'm just waiting to go.
All right. Anybody else want to come up and be identified?
I do, I want to be.
Identify me. things that you could look at, and as we talked about them, that you identified with?
No.
No? She's an alien. She's an alien. Most people are one of them.
Okay, so what shape is my face?
Rectangular?
It's more rectangular.
A wood?
No. Yes, it would,
Really?
But her body, I think, is earth.
She's got some earth in there. You don't have a build-up here. You don't have the really thick eyebrows of wood. But the angle on the straighter sides on the face can be a little bit of the wood. And it's not just real straight sides to it. Somewhat of a triangle. Yours is more water related all to the water.
Water, well, I'm a water sign, but, I mean, you know,
Yeah, but
that's
they
geologically.
tend to use ambiguity, the intrigue, the questioning, and.
Oh, yeah, a little bit,
Extremely
yes, some of the, right.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing about waters, they're extremely inquisitive. They're always asking questions. And even though they've got an answer, they may come back and ask it again in a different way to get more information. Right? Got a lawyer over here.
That's strong.
A combination of wood with.
She has good muscle tone. She's earth too.
I don't have a very good muscle tone. Not really.
You know, there's definitely some earth there, the real softness is her,
Yeah,
the nurturing caretaking.
right.
So,
All right, so maybe like a combination of water, earth.
yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is there a medal?
Yeah, I was looking to see if.
Yeah, she went to the bathroom.
See, she agrees.
Yeah, over to, that's better.
And she has a middle there.
Oh, yes, she's metal.
You see? If I blow real hard, she's gonna fall over.
I'm trying to pick a fight with her because she'll win.
See, that's true.
No, I do look classy, like.
Yes.
She's got some wood in her too.
Yes. And she does have a triangular face on the metal.
Yeah.
Well, she said.
Polished skin. Reserved. She's been pretty quiet.
She is, and she's sitting in the back of the room.
Yes.
Yes, observing everything.
Hi, eyebrows.
That's what metal does.
I've had people up in front look at me in the back and go, "Trying to take over the room." I'm sitting at the back of the room, not saying anything. You're just trying to
Intrigued. Don't
You can
understand.
see your collarbone.
Well, is that really got metal?
Yeah.
Collarbones. Let's see her wrists. Yeah,
Delicate.
those are delicate wrists. Yeah, a lot of metal.
very strong.
Yeah, she's got a little wood in there too.
There was never.
Okay, shall I
She's
see her
classy.
face otherwise? Y'all want to know all about it?
Yes.
You know all about it? I don't care. I figured as much. That's fine. Okay, you see this really rounded forehead here?
Oh, yeah.
It's, and turned sideways, see how curved it is, sort of
Uh-huh,
spherical?
right.
That's always a very creative mind, very intuitive mind. It's going and what comes out may be pulling in from every direction before it pops out of her mouth.
Yes, and many times she's not gonna pop out, but she knows everything that is going on.
And you see, you see how this part of her face comes forward from this point? That's impulsivity, spontaneity. She doesn't always have a plan, but she gets there.
But she does not let her mouth run.
No,
Can you show us, when you finish, show us the difference between the short, between the nose and the lip, and a long? Because you don't have experience, I don't know what short.
what you're supposed to be looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have any extremely short ones. Yours is fairly short. And look how well she's dressed.
She's a fashionista.
The lady,
Short upper
the
lip.
lady there in the middle, she has short too. You have?
Me?
Yes.
Not overly.
No, no. She does, she does.
Yeah, you. Yeah. A
Yes.
little bit. Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does that help? And then you'll see some people like us who've got a really long upper lip. And we like to be
When you
weird.
have.
Okay. The jawline, don't tell me what to do. And you see a lot of eyelids. A lot of eyelids. Okay, folks, get to the point. I don't want to know all that stuff. Direct actions, she gets the gist of it, but that quick mind, she's ready to go do it. Don't make excuses, just get the job done.
Does this stuff correlate with Myers-Briggs?
It probably could. I have not sat down and got myself organized enough to do it. But yeah.
Strong introvert.
So which one is the forehead like hers? My mother was like that, you know.
It's just
Big
a
and
very
round.
creative,
Wood.
resourceful. Well, wood is more of a buildup, a brow ridge, right here.
Would you say she's got a bit of a
Some buildup right there. You can see I've got some, you've got some. She's got a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's also got a fairly long nose of metal.
Also stands out light too. It also reflects light from back here pretty good. Her nose reflects the most light. Her forehead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the curve is a helper.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no. People ask her for that.
My business.
And then the chin recedes, and so highly flexible, adaptable to the circumstances. And she's not going to hang in there forever. If it's not working, she's going to find other things to do.
What's your business?
I work as a healer, and that doesn't mean just massage, yeah.
She's a gifted healer.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And
So I'm sorry,
a fuller
I
mouth.
lost it. What does the little one mean and what does the long one mean?
The short, really short one, where there's almost no space there. That is a person who has a very good eye for what looks good together. And they're very fashion and personal appearance oriented, generally speaking. And they take things personally. Okay?
No, not.
How do you match together? I like to wear this.
I like colors, so I'm always matching colors together. I have been accused of being a clothes horse.
She is a clothes horse.
It's very colorful.
I don't do that. You know, for me, what a clothes horse is somebody who's constantly checking to see. I get up in the morning and it's like, okay, I want to wear gray. Pull gray, pull gray, pull gray. Gray. Don't think about it again all day.
But usually it's more like red, orange,
Chartreuse,
red,
purple.
with a little yellow in there.
Oh, whatever the colors are, but right now I'm doing gray. But even the grays are different.
But you're still matching.
Matchy, matchy.
My kids get on and be like, Mom, you're not
Well,
matching.
you know, metal is more oriented toward personal appearance. She's got a lot of metal, whether she's got the short upper lip or not. You know, you have to look at the whole picture.
And I don't care what anybody thinks about what I have on.
She really doesn't.
Well, I've listened to a lot of people tell me what I should do and how I should be looking and all that, and listen very carefully, say thank you, and I don't change.
Yeah, she just keeps going.
Who cares? I don't mess with your life. Why do you bother mine?
Sorry, my head's just.
Okay.
Here, come on, we'll get you, come on.
No,
We'll check you out, come on. Don't be shy. Come
Hey,
on.
you go ski out there.
she's a fire girl, that's why she's on the big truck.
Because I know you for a long time. Come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, don't
If
be
she doesn't
shy.
want to, it's okay. Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any one of these that seems to be more dominant that you see across the population? Would it be, is there maybe more wood, more fire?
Brown is good.
Could it be because that's where you go, or is it more fire in the world in general? I know, too big to.
I don't know.
Somehow I just,
I see a lot of her.
I would just think like, let's go attend conference this week, it would be maybe lesser. Maybe more different type of personality.
You know,
But I would.
this is a better, these tend to flock together. And whenever I have done, like I went over to the Museum of Science and History here in Fort Worth, and they have an adults educational group. And these people, almost without exception, as they were coming through, they kept having these big giant foreheads that have this kind of a Worf from Star Trek. That's what I look at them and go, wow, that's quite a forehead. That's
Sure.
and it's usually somebody who's got a very fine mind. And I just kept seeing them, you know. Every third one had one of these foreheads. Whoa, we got to run on them tonight. But it's very interesting, you know, when you see a bunch of them together like that. You know, they're over here talking about, I bet they can find plenty to talk about. But yeah, you will see different, it depends on where you go.
Sure.
I come from a family primarily of farmers, and they're primarily earth. My dad's side of the family has a lot of metal and wood. And so I wound up with more characteristics from that side, but my brother and sister and my mother all had this earthy look to them. They're like, where'd you get her?
It's almost like comforting if you think as an earth being grounded and maybe more level-headed, and maybe we're not going to walk into the flames of hell or a fire pit because more of us are grounded.
Yes.
Not that I am, I'm no water, but it's reassuring.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
some reassurance.
Yeah, but I think it's more common. I see more of it.
Would you
Yes.
say these different personality types or facial types tend to, like you said, birds of a feather, do they flock to people that are similar to them, or do they attract the opposites, or how does that work?
You know, it depends. I find that water people are more curious about all kinds of people, and so they hang out with all different kinds. And earth people tend to want to hang out with earth people. Yeah, and metal people, I see a lot of metal hanging out together. But if you get into the Chinese system, they have a whole system of who's compatible with whom and who's not. And it's all
Like rabbit and dragon or whatever?
well, it's not, it's the elements, you know, like earth is a good supporter for wood, who wants somebody at home taking care of the home fires while he's out conquering worlds, that kind of thing. And sometimes metal does not work so well with wood if wood figures out that metal actually controls him. Otherwise, he's pretty good with it. much, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the Chinese, the way they see us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some books over here, if you're interested, they're $10, even, tax included, but that's an introduction to face reading. It's not the Chinese face reading. Yes,
Yes, could you read one of the men, because we haven't had a man up there yet.
if they're willing.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
go. We tried to get you to go with us.
Yes,
Yeah.
come on, baby,
I
come
don't know
on.
because I've been face read before by a guy at Folsom, I kind of know. But,
We're not.
What about
not
you?
Chinese, but these guys can get up there and involved.
Yeah, we got you.
I don't push anybody to be read if they don't want to.
No, yeah.
Is Maddie alive? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the audience guy.
See?
Can we hide
Can
one?
we see this way?
Yeah, go ahead and face that.
She said he was.
The high forehead, probably somewhat of an information junkie, love to know all kinds of stuff you don't need to know, you just want to know. And got some wood in there, you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Nice brow ridge there, so there's a drive to achieve, to make a feel like you've been of some significance in life. And
Smart.
chin sticks out a little bit, and this is a lot of perseverance and tenacity. When you commit, you don't give up easily. Hanging in there. Now the nose has that lovely curve to it, which says he likes to help people. And it's hard to say no to your friends. But if you ask them a question or whatever, and they answer you or whatever, you may be a little skeptical and don't always trust everything they say. They have to prove it. Particularly if it's not something you've run into before. And let's see. The eyes show that you're somewhat of a why baby. You have to know why. Everything has to make sense, so you're going to probe and keep questioning until it does.
So what is it about
Research
eyes?
it yourself. And this is no eyelids. These are probing eyes. And they're just about an eyes width apart, which says you do things in a timely fashion. It's not this, oh, it's got to be done now, or I'll do it later. It's like, it needs to be done now.
You
so
focus
we
pretty good.
go after it and
Yeah.
ignore that kind of a mode. Now, you can probably tease people and play with them and give them a hard time at times. That's this little indentation right across here. This is somebody who, if he knows you well, he might just kind of lead you along and just playing with you. You know, don't know all that. Okay. And he's got the nurturing and directness. Generally, will say what he thinks. And if you ask him a question, he figures you want the real answer and he'll give it to you.
Now, I have a question. I think he has a triangular, say, like a bell, more than a rectangular. Don't you think so?
Well, you know, it's interesting. The two sides are different. This side is straighter, which is more of the wood, and the rectangular look to it. And this side is definitely more triangular.
Because
And
may I
this is
touch?
from your mother's side. This is from your father's side.
No, because may I? Okay, he will be like so, he will be rectangular. But look, right here, he does not have the large bumps. So this is a triangular. He's metal. Are you ready?
There's something out there that's
There could be some elements of.
What do you think?
There could be some elements, it's not pure, okay? And this really, right here, is pretty strong. And that's that with the brow ridge and that square chin.
He was here with the bronze.
The brow ridge is one of the indications that says that you have your own ideas about things and you're not just going to go with whatever other people tell you. That's usually a pretty strong word indication. That's what the first thing you should look for. It's whatever they got. Now, this can just be, don't tell me what to do. What is that? You got that, and that can show up on, don't tell me the elements. It's a combination of things. Okay? Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Have you analyzed President Trump's face? Can you tell us your evaluation?
Well, you know, in today's climate,
go ahead.
in today's climate, I avoid anything to do with politics.
Listen, here we're neutral.
And you can go to faceology.blogspot.com, and I have an analysis of him on that. Faceology.
You Democrats, I voted for Trump. I'm independent voter, but I'm Republican, I voted for Trump because
Okay, but it's just that I just don't even like to get into
I know,
politics.
it's just fun to me.
Blogspot.com. Yeah. And I have a number of famous faces on there, but it's, I tried to keep it as absolutely neutral and simply talk about what's on the face.
Sure thinks that's right.
Yeah. But you can see a lot on the face. And
Sandra,
okay, yes.
would you retain?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you retain his face?
Sure.
Go up there.
Okay. You want to come up here or you want to?
Yes.
Here.
Okay. That really rounded forehead.
Yeah,
Turn a little more this
it's a
way.
good example around the forehead.
Yeah, there's a real good example of rounded forehead, and it's smoothly rounded.
Yeah.
And this is one indication of somebody who maintains things, whether they're friendships or hangs in there with an organization or that sort of thing, and stays in touch with friends, and is very interested in the past and the history and preservation of like old buildings or whatever, but there's a love of the old things, and you don't want to see them just go by the wayside. And that really round forehead, like we talked about, is very creative, very intuitive, very resourceful. It's what I call a salesman's forehead. They can attack it from all kinds of different angles and pull things together with that. The rounded eyebrows, now, have you done a lot to them? Are that? No. They're very natural, okay? But most women anymore, I always ask. Because who knows? Anyway, that's a good ability to set up a system and to work with it. And you like to be systematic in the way you go after things. The space right here is sort of rounded and full. This is analytical. So you absolutely can look at things and figure them out. And so you probably enjoy mysteries and puzzles because of it. And a rather small nose shows in relation to your whole face that you hate the dull, boring, routine stuff. It's like, do I have to do this? And so it's easier if you have somebody do it with you, or you make a game out of it and play a little game with yourself to get the job done. The cheeks are pretty close to your nose, so you like to move fast and slow people need to get out of your path. How's your driving?
I am a good driver. I used to race cars, so.
Get out of the way.
I'm really good. Yeah. I don't race now. I mean, I used to race.
Right, that's cool. That's very generous, love to talk to people. A rounded face is relational. All the roundness in the different parts of your face show that you're very relational. You like to be with people. You love to know about people. And this is well, I'm talking about the roundness down here, the roundness on the forehead. Whenever people have some roundness like that, it's relational. And they're usually good with business because business is based on relationships. You've got to have good relationships to have a viable business. Tend to be generous, might like a little bit of drama from time to time.
Maybe it happens all around me and I just notice it.
Yeah.
I just stand there and watch it all.
She can't help it.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a little bit of a square on the bottom of your chin, very idealistic, and you may crusade for the things that are important to you. The low ears, very social, and you have a picture of the way the world's supposed to be, and people should act. And even if they don't live up to it, you're going to hold your own feet to the fire, or you can't live with yourself. You beat yourself up with one side down the other if you feel like you violated some of your own rules. And your eyes are rather close together, which means you want to get it done immediately. If you want a job done, give it to somebody with close set eyes. It will get done sooner rather than later. And they can't relax until it is. It may be hard to relax, period.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I do that. I sit down sometimes to eat.
Oh, wow. And you've got rather fine skin and hair, so you're extremely sensitive to the environment. Heat, cold, all of that will bother you tremendously. So, there you have it.
But did you see the fire in her?
Oh, yeah, there's some fires. You have turned eyes.
I was having trouble determining which one I was. It seemed like
You've
it
got
was wood, and then it seemed like fire, and then there seemed like there was some water. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, you've got, some people do have three. Okay. You will read in some of the books, they say it's usually a dominant plus one, and I have found some people are like 3 parts. They've got more than just the two. So, you probably like to know yourself, and you relate to these things, and if that, all of that comes very strongly to you, then you can start looking to see where it shows up.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're
She's got to do one more. Yeah, can I do one more? If you want to do one more, there's time.
Who else?
What about you?
I'll take it. Okay. You want to do it? No, I'm ready.
One of the things about this face, you see how that's kind of angled right up here? Yes. You do better if you don't have to stay focused on one thing for a long time. It's like, you do better juggling. There you go. And the high forehead, you're interested in a number of things, but it's not everything. You probably have a range of interests in those. You'll go in depth and down rabbit hole for them, but the rest of them you can care less. And that's the width of it. A person with super wide forehead and pretty high, they're like these people who eat out of a fire hose from every direction. They want to know everything about everything. But whenever it's a more narrow forehead up there, it's, just certain areas of interest. Now, those eyes show that you want people to cut to the chase. You may put things off until later. And you put up with stuff you don't like way too long, and when you have had it, you have had it. You're done. You may end relationships and all kinds of things whenever you put up with it too long, but you're home. And that's the downfall, is because you didn't tell them, I don't like that, don't do it. You usually going in that respect. And that's one of the prices that wives and eyes pay sometimes, is they lose relationships because they have just had it with them. Nurturing, generally going to take care of the people around you and say what you think. Pretty independent, but not extreme. You prefer to do things your own way. And those cheeks, you prefer to have people get out of your path, your own mission. don't tell me what to do. And you've been around the block long enough, you know it's probably not gonna turn out well, and you're not gonna get your hopes up and say, oh, it's gonna be so wonderful. You're going, maybe. And just, you know, we'll see. A little bit skeptical, and it's hard to sit still very long. You have need to move. And as you're doing that, you don't want anybody telling you where to move or how. Fairly long nose is usually good with business. I have a good sense about business principles and that kind of thing. So, and casual. You're not a real formal person. You don't say that I don't know them. It's like, so I don't know them. Then you are. Right. You don't have to have a formal introduction. And let's see where your ears are sitting. They're fairly low and they're long and low. The Chinese say that's good luck in old age. When you have a really long, low one there. But low ears are got a picture of how the world should be. And since it's sitting way back on your head, there's usually a sense of showmanship, and there is a need to understand life from the mental level, instead of just an instinctual gut level. Okay? Thank you. You're welcome.